Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday update, recorded on the 23rd of April. Halfway mark of the week already. Let's get into the forecast. We've got a few things going on, although on this map, you can't see them just yet. This is a map showing the UV rays in the middle of the day, New Zealand time. So this big circle of purple shading or pink shading, depending on how you're viewing it on your screen. This area here is where you're seeing the highest concentration of UV rays. Think of it like when you turn a torch on, shine it at the wall, you see the circle. That's basically the highest concentration of UV rays coming into our atmosphere at the moment. The further away from the equator you are in the southern hemisphere, the lower those numbers are. But in saying that, they are still moderate levels in New Zealand. Southerly winds coming up around the country today. Part of the reason I'm showing you this map is because there's not a lot actually happening around New Zealand to zoom into. So it's better off to see this bigger picture, and the colour shading around New Zealand is still in the moderate setting. So that's from Southland all the way to Northland. Some areas in the green, that's just cloud covering it, so it makes it a little bit lower in those cases. But generally, this yellow to orange shading around a large part of New Zealand and Australia still in that moderate UV levels. So you need to protect the eyes, slip, slop, slap and wrap if you're outside in the sun, even in autumn in New Zealand. All right, let's move on to the total rainfall. Another long weekend on the way and another rain event for some of you in the north. I'm so sorry to report that, because it does seem like the north of the country is stuck in this long weekend bad forecast situation off and on for the past couple of years. We've got some rain forecast to come through, but it is still borderline. This rain map, brought to you by resupply.co.nz, goes from now through till the end of Sunday, into the long weekend coming up. So I think keep an eye on this. The rainfall numbers are changing a little bit from day to day as the global models update, and basically, and that's filtered down to our forecasts that we have locally. So you are seeing some heavy rain, Coromandel Peninsula, Auckland region, mostly north of the city, and up around Northland, where you could be seeing 100 millimetres or even slightly more than that around parts of Northland. You don't want that after all the rain you've just had. There are other parts of the lower North Island where they need more rain. You know, parts of Waikato down towards Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, over to the west. Some of these areas have not had a lot of rain, despite all the news about the wet weather coming through. So drier weather, especially on the eastern side of the South Island and the lower North Island, drier weather over the few days ahead. Most of that weather looks to be north of the country, but like I say, this is still moving around, and just like we saw the other day, you can have a line of heavy rain. That high pressure out to the east here can just gently push in a different direction by the time we update you in another day or two. So worth monitoring. So let me show you what is happening. First of all, here we are as we go into Thursday. High pressure, both sides of New Zealand. So pretty settled, but having a centre on both sides of the South Island makes for a little bit of convergence. So you may get a little bit of cloud where the winds bump together. To the north, a few showers passing through. East to southeasterlies aren't overly wet for the top of the country coming around a high like this, but you never know. There could be a couple of heavy downpours as that tracks on through. Otherwise, not a lot to talk about, but bit of a cold start to the day. Light winds, the southerly we've got at the moment, that fades out tonight. Wake up tomorrow, colder start. Could be some frosts around, or at least a cold start to the day. Now, as we go into Anzac Day, we'll have more of a detailed update on Thursday about how Anzac morning is looking. But for now, we've got a few showers, mostly from Coromandel Peninsula, maybe northern parts of Auckland northwards. Almost everywhere else looks completely dry, maybe a light shower around East Cape in the very corner. But otherwise, it does look pretty dry and settled for Anzac Day. And a slight northwest breeze means it just might be another degree or two milder when you wake up. That's usually a pretty good thing for most people. So going into the weekend, this is this sort of frustrating forecast we are in once again. It is not a repeat of what we had at Easter, but there are some similarities in the sense that there's another big high east of the country, ballooning up to the tropics, ballooning down south of us, and there is a weak area of low pressure, not an ex-cyclone this time around, but just a very weak area of low pressure. So between that and the high, back come those northeasterly winds, and they're going to start to pick up again. Gusts getting up around 50, 60 k's an hour, maybe 30, 40 knots here and there. Some rain or showers, that's sort of still a bit borderline because of the high very close to us and not much of a rainmaker to the north. So this forecast, you heard it here first, could change. But it's not necessarily looking like a huge amount of wet weather for the rest of the country. You know, we're still seeing dry skies almost everywhere else, and the pale blue you see here, that's just a couple of showers. So we're not seeing a major day of rain, but we might be seeing a bit of patchy kind of rain stuck between this sinking area of low pressure offshore, and the big high pressure system near the Chatham Islands. Sunday, now you get a better picture of what is going on. So big high pressure, just like we had at Easter weekend, where it stretches up to the tropics and stretches down south of the country. The difference is the low pressure zones out to our north and our west, they are nothing like what we saw last weekend. So that removes a huge amount of energy. But we are still getting that windy outer edge of the high pressure zone. Very weak low pressure nearby, adding just a little bit more to that wind and a little bit more to that moisture coming through. Patchy kind of wet weather, broken up. Some areas might have a little line of rain that's stuck. Others might not have much to talk about. So we'll be tracking this. We'll have more details tomorrow. North Island has that. The lower half of the North Island, still dry. Sorry to say, those areas that missed out on rain at Easter, still not seeing much coming through as we go through to this Sunday. And in the South Island, mostly dry, with warmer west to northwest winds developing. So if you're going away on holiday for the 3-day weekend, there are some areas that have great weather, there are others that do not. And the top of the country looks the messiest, but I do still think we're going to see a bit of change there because it's different to yesterday's update and the day before that. Such a fickle area of low pressure. It is there. It can always trigger and go a little bit deeper and a little bit more energetic. But unlike the last system that was pulling all that tropical energy down with it, this one's more developing on our back doorstep. Or is that our front doorstep? I'm not really ever sure on that one. At the other end of the country, look at the size of this storm, 956. That's a big, deep, powerful storm, well south down towards Antarctica, over the top of the Southern Ocean. But that is also dredging up a southerly that will hit the South Island, or I shouldn't say hit, move into the South Island. It's not a nasty big system, but it does come through on Monday here. So by the time we get into Tuesday, cooler airflow sort of comes in and fades away. So it might be a bit of a cold start on Tuesday in the south. The low in the north deepening a little more. Now it's getting a bit better organised. Air pressure is dropping a wee bit, and that could start to see a bit of windier easterly weather and some rain. But again, this is a borderline system because most of the wind and rain is sort of moving around a bit each day. It's not like the other day where it was sort of one solid spot and we just sort of tracked the movement of that as we went through. So we'll be keeping an eye on this as we go into next week. A bit of wet weather at the top of the South Island, but the lower North Island still missing out. So we'll have more information about this in our video tomorrow, Thursday. Getting the day right, yes, tomorrow's Thursday, last one of the week. So we'll see you again tomorrow as we take a closer look at Anzac Day and the next long weekend.